Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to newstreamingnetwork.com, and I hope that you guys uh, you guys have been with me for so long, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. You know that New Streaming Network is actually the home of Going Solo and Going Bold, and we are just so excited to be able to have you here with us on this show, Date the Right One. I am your host, Cece Schatz. I am the doyenne of relationship building, and I just want to make sure that you all have my information. You can reach me at goingsolonetwork.com, and then also my email is goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. I am a life coach. I am a divorce, dating, and a life coach connecting singles throughout the Going Solo Network. And I am just so excited about the show tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about, we're going to really go into the human heart, right? We're going to go into the human heart, relationships, offering fresh perspective beyond the conventional love advice. You hear it all the time here on Date the Right One. You hear love advice, but this is going to be something totally different, totally exciting. So you guys want to sit down, grab your seat, and hang on, because we've got a lot going on for you. We're going to talk about love is not blind, and it certainly isn't. We have our wonderful guest here, Shelly LaVigne. Hey, Shelly, how are you?
Hi, so nice to be here. Thank you, Cece.
It is so great having you. You are finally called the Love Investigator, and I am just so pleased to be able to have you here with us tonight. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into being really a dating expert and helping singles, and how did you get the lovely name Love Investigator?
Well, unfortunately, when I was 18, my parents divorced, and it was an ugly divorce. So I think at that point, I started questioning love. Like, what is this all about? And I think I was, you know, cynical of it from there on. And I thought, I don't want to get married. I don't want kids. I don't want to do any of that. And so I started my investigation into it at that point because I really wanted to figure out what the heck happened, because it seemed like a perfect relationship, from the outside looking in and being a part of the family. I have two sisters, and I thought my parents were doing great. And then not so much. So I think I started investigating the whole idea of what love is and how we, as you say, how do we choose the right one? And have you ever played a game like basketball and you've never played before? And so if you're expected to go into this game, what do you need to know? You need to know the rules. Okay, so if I'm going to go play basketball, how do I play? What are the positions? How does this all work? What are the plays? And then you start to get the basics, right? And then you start to play a little bit better and a little bit better as you practice and you go along. And then, of course, then we have the NBA and all these players that are at an extreme high level. Well, there's no playbook for the game of love. Like if I went to ask you, okay, Cece, let's go play the game of love because everybody calls it a game, right?
Right?
Well, there's no playbook. So I've discovered over the last 10 plus years, after observation and learning this framework 10 years ago, I've kind of taken it and honed it and made it into this framework and checklist where I'm suggesting that I have the playbook to the game of love. So there are positions, there are rules, there are ways that we go about playing this game, and that you are one position in this game. And you have to learn how to play effectively with others, and especially when you go to choose somebody, because we're literally flying blind. Like I felt like my entire life, especially after my parents, like, I don't know. I have no idea how to choose somebody. How do I go about playing this game? I'm very into sports and always have been, so the game analogy really works for me. And this investigation into this for the last 10 years has just opened my eyes to what's really happening underneath all of our relationships, not just love, but especially love, because I just love the subject because I like people, and I have people, and I've always enjoyed, companionship. There's nothing like it. My husband and I get along so well because of this. Our two daughters have learned this framework, the four cross love framework, and they use it every day to how they navigate relationships with their friends, when they meet somebody, and they can learn how to have empathy and sympathy and get along with people at such a higher level because of it. So that was kind of a long,
No,
but
wonderful.
yeah, that's how I've gotten into it, and that's how it started for me. Unfortunately, with a bad event, but it's turned out to be the most amazing thing in my life, and I'm so passionate about it.
I'm so pleased that you're sharing that with us today. And those of you, I want to make sure that we share her website. It's For Cross Love. And you can reach her at fourcrosslove@gmail.com. And that's number four, and then cross, CROSS, and then love, of course, LOVE.com. Yeah, you've got like you call it a framework, right? So it's really a
Mhm.
complex, like the complex dynamics of love and relationships. So share with us a little bit about that type of framework, because I think it's totally something different that we haven't heard before.
Well, what I've discovered, it's a more of a systematic approach to love. It's more of a scientific approach, which I think we kind of need
Mhm.
because, as I said, we're flying blind, just hoping and praying, and you fall. Do we fall? Fall into it. Just it's get the zing. You meet somebody. Well, I think what I've discovered is that there's these four positions, and we attract to the opposite of us for a very good reason. So the four positions on the compass of love are north, east, south, and west. So it's really easy to remember. And these four positions, north, east, south, and west, we're attracted to the opposite for a very good reason. It's because there's something about the opposite of us that fulfills that part of us that we know we aren't, and that we can't be. I think the biggest relief that I discovered going through this is that I'm not all four positions. I'm just one, and I don't have to necessarily worry about the other three positions, and that's why they exist, so that we can coordinate action and relate to each other within this framework. So the framework is the four positions in the cycle of interaction of the human communication. So let's just say, well, I'll take an example. So Cece, let's go have some dinner. So that's the idea. So this is the start of the cycle of interaction and communication between humans. And we say, okay, let's go have some dinner. And then you go to the east position and you go through all the possibilities. Okay, well, we could have Thai, we could have burgers, we could go to, sushi. And then we decide, okay, let's go have sushi. I love sushi. I don't know if you do. And
No.
then
Okay.
the idea, then you go do the action, the actual thing. You eat, right?
Mhm.
And then after you eat, you go to the west position, the cycle that happens, and you go through the evaluation process. Was it good? Was it fresh? Did we like it? Would we come back? And then this is happening 24/7, 365, and everything you do all day long. These cycles of this interaction.
Mhm.
Well, so every person, I believe, is born into one of these positions. You aren't more than one, and you can't change anybody. You have to learn how to read people. And so we each play a position in this interaction, in small little decisions like that and ideas like that, or the bigger ones. And then of course, you're layering these cycles on one another. So when you meet somebody, that's the ignition, and that's the north position, and that's the idea. Just because you're north doesn't mean you always come up with the ideas. All positions can come up with ideas, but the north position in particular is the ignition. And so then you start layering all these interactions that you have once you meet somebody through this cycle continuously, like all these layers. And then you come to a decision process. Well, I've narrowed it down to a checklist that you can go through in order to make a more systematic decision based on this framework. So I've concluded that in this checklist, the first thing is awareness. So you need to be self-aware. You need to be aware of your position on the court, in the field. You need to have the positional, be aware of the other positions.
We're kind
Then you
of
need to
you
have,
froze,
there's four different
froze up there a
attractions.
little bit. You froze up there just a little bit. We
What's that?
missed that. We missed what you said because you froze
Okay.
a little bit. If you could repeat that.
Okay. Um, the ignition. So we're going through like the process, and when you meet people, you go through these layers of these cycles and continuously. And once you realize that you are one of these positions and you have a certain perspective in life,
Hmm.
and you see things very differently than the other three positions, which is actually fantastic because we need people to be different. We need people to fill this interaction so that we can coordinate and make and things happen. Like, all these ideas come to fruition or these relationships happen. And so once you start realizing this, you start realizing why you're attracted to some people, why some people you're like, no, why some people perturb you, why you aren't likely in a romantic relationship going to be attracted to the same person as you, because you realize that they're not fulfilling that void or that gap in your natural cycle that would fulfill that for you. So yes, so I come up with this checklist. The first part is awareness. So you need to be self-aware. You need to be positionally aware. So yourself, you need to understand your position. Then you start becoming aware of the other positions. And then there's 4 attractions. So the second part of the checklist is attractions. And it's you need to be physically attracted. You need to be emotionally attracted. You need to be intellectually attracted. And then you need to be positionally attracted. So that's the second part of the checklist. And then the third part is interest. You got to have this some same interest. Not all. I mean, if you like going out and going to the beach, it'd be nice if the person liked to go with you. And I have a whole way to kind of ask these questions about interests, no matter hobbies or games or books or movies or whatever whatever you like. It's really important. And then the fifth one or the fourth one is values. You need to have some similar values in how you look at life, right? I mean, that's important. And then the fifth one is effective communication. You have to kind of analyze how you go about communicating. And if you feel good about if they communicate well with you, and if you communicate well with them, you feel heard. So I have a whole like way you can look at that. And then the sixth point, of course, is choice. Then you decide. So going through this whole checklist, you can take to me, in a more effective sort of systematic approach to understanding relationship and really feeling confident about choosing the right person.
Okay.
Does that make
So,
sense?
yeah, it does. And I think it's really great. The only thing I'm a little bit confused about is how do you determine? So, are you determining whether you are a north, a south, or east west person? I mean, are you trying to determine like which you are of those?
Yeah. So in my book that's coming out in a couple months, I have
Mhm.
these very long, elaborate descriptions, and
Okay.
it's very nuanced. Um, and so it's how you go about operating in life. Kind of say it's your human software,
Mhm.
and it's how you negotiate things. It's how you look at life. It's how you respond. It's how you react. And we all have this basic survival concern, and each one is very different for each position. And so we go about life. If our survival concern is perturbed, we get defensive and we get in survival mode. And so once you understand that, you can kind of look at what's happening around you, and you can navigate life more effectively, not only with your partner, but with yourself, and how you start recognizing what's going on for you and how you look at things and how you interact with people, and you can come to conclusions and ways to relate with them so much faster. And it's such a relief. It was such a relief for me when I realized this, because I was like, oh, well, that's why that person didn't necessarily like me, or I didn't necessarily get along with them. Or you come across people that you're like, wow, that was really refreshingly easy. I'm sure we've all been in situations like that where you're like, huh, well, that was fun. And I just met them. And I think in relationships too, we come across people who are like, wow, I really enjoy being around that person, but we have no idea why. It's just a feeling. But what I've come to is these feelings are going on for a very, very interesting, definite reason. I feel there's I feel like after studying this and observing this for the last 10 years, there is a definite reason that we are attracted to certain people and not to others.
Hmm.
Besides, you know, personality, personality is very interesting. I believe this is biological, like it is part of our human operating system.
Hmm.
Personality is layered on top of that.
Okay. So as we're moving forward in dating, right? So when we
Mhm.
start to understand what we are, whether we're north, south, east, west, then we can start determining which one of those would be better suited for us. So then we become, you know, familiar with that type of individual. So we know who to be looking for, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is, we're able to narrow it down very quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So when is your book
Yeah.
coming out again?
Probably in a couple months.
Okay,
Yeah,
that'll
I'm
be
just going through
so.
the process.
Yeah.
I really want to have it available in an audiobook initially because so many I love audiobooks. I think that's almost the only way I look into listen to books anymore. So I'd love to have that done first,
Yeah,
and then you know, put it on Amazon. And
that would be great.
yeah,
And what's
I'm
the name of the
so
book?
excited for.
Do you
It's
know?
called Love Is Not Blind. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, Love is Not
Called,
Blind is the name of it.
it's called Love Is Not Blind. You Are. Open
Mhm.
your eyes, win the game of love, be happy, because that's what we all want. You know,
Right.
love is only everything.
Mhm. That
You
is
know,
great.
it's the number one thing that's written about, sung about, talked about. We're, you know, falling head over heels into it. You know, everything. It's everything. And I'm so excited about this book. I can't stand it. It's taken me a long, it's taken me a long time to really narrow it down and get it, you know, where I want it, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But yeah, I'm super excited.
Great. So now on your website, we can probably find the information there also. Am I correct?
Yeah, so on my website right now, I have you can sign up for a love letter. So every
Mhm.
Friday I send out a love letter, and it goes at this point, because nobody knows their positions yet. I relate it to positions, but it resonates with everybody. And what's interesting about it is, I imagine if you get my love letter every Friday, I kind of give tips and points about how to love each position differently, and
Mhm.
how they react to how you relate to them, how you speak to them, and how we want to be spoken to, and how we relate. So I've written these. I have all of them, I think, up to now on my blog. So they're just the past love letters.
Mhm.
And you can kind of go through and look at those and see how, you know, get a little feel for what I'm talking about.
Right. So that would be
Yeah.
great.
So
That would be really
yeah,
good.
I love I love love letters. So I was like, I don't want to send a newsletter. I want to send a love letter.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody loves the love letter. So now, do you do
Yeah, right.
coaching also? Do you also do coaching?
I do. I'm taking cases in my investigations, but at this point, because it'd be, you know, super helpful for somebody to know their position, but I certainly can take cases now, and I do coaching, and I
Mhm.
really love investigating with people, because you start, they give you clues. Like, everybody gives clues the
Right.
moment they start talking. And even when they don't start talking, you know, it's kind of like you're answering if you're speaking or if you're not speaking, because what you're saying is, I prefer not to say. Um, so yes, I'm taking cases. I love investigating with people. I just find this the most fascinating thing ever. My book's coming out, and of course, I love the love letters. I think are just super fun. They're short, sweet, to the point, um, which is how I am. I like short, sweet, to the point things. So that's how it is.
Well, that is terrific. Well, everyone, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Shelly just a little bit more. Maybe she can share with us those love letters. That would be nice to be able to kind of hear a little bit more about that. So, you guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the newsstreamingnetwork.com, and we'll be right back.
Let's see if I can get my love letters up here.
Welcome back. You guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is Date the Right One. I am your host, Cece Schatz. I am so pleased to have you here with us tonight. You are listening to the newstreamingnetwork.com. Today we're talking about Love is Not Blind, and we have Shelly LaVigne with us. She is the love investigator, and she has this great framework that she's established where you can do like north, south, east, west. What are you? What are you? Are you north? Are you south? Are you east? Are you west? And she's going to help us try to determine that a little bit more with her love letters here. But she's got a brand new book that's going to be coming out in a few months. It's going to be audible so that you guys can actually go and listen to it. That would be great. But I also want to share with you before we get too into it too deep that she has a free gift for us here, and we want to thank her so much for doing that. If you go to her website, she has a free gift that includes 2 videos from her upcoming book, a peek into which of the 4 positions are you, what the 4-cross love checklist is, and how you can use it to win the game of love. And so we want to thank Shelly for sharing that with us. So her website, of course, is www.4 number 4 cross cross love love.com. So go check that out. Get your free gift. It's just like I think it's like /gift, and you can get that there. And you want to make sure you get that because you get the checklist, and so that you can start to understand what are you. And so there's 2 free videos there for you. So Shelly, tell us a little bit about these love letters because it sounds so interesting, and try to give us a little bit more insight as to what are we, north, south, east, west? What are we?
Well, so 4 cross is the 4 positions in how we cross, how we interact, how we engage, how we navigate life. And so to it's the positions are so nuanced, it's hard to, I can tell pretty much as soon as I meet somebody. But it takes time, just like any game, to really get the nuances and understand it. It's like playing chess. The first time you play, you're pretty bad, but you start to realize what the positions do and how they move and how to becoming a grandmaster, right? So the love letters are all about how to really think about from the other person's perspective from each position. So I write them so that you can kind of get a look into the other positions and also how you might be looking at life. And it helps you in relationships because you start seeing how very different these 4 positions are seeing life. And what I found really fascinating about this is that, everybody kind of thinks there's the one, oh, I got to find the one. Well, if you think about it, and there's really only 4 positions in the game of love, you have a lot of different options when it comes to finding the right partner. And I think this kind of opens up that possibility even more. And it kind of takes the responsibility on us to recognize that and realize, I think we shun some people, or we don't allow people into our lives sometimes because we think something's perturbing about them, or we don't like something about them or something. But I think what this will do is help you have empathy for so many more people. What it did for me is I realized that I was looking at people very judgmental. I was kind of a judgmental person. And it was because Norse have a tendency to look at people assessing versus really listening and trying to promote that relationship. So I think what it did for me is I started understanding people at a whole different level, and I started appreciating them at a whole different level, not just, relationships as far as romantic, but everybody. And so my big goal in this is having more empathy for people. So these love letters that I send out every Friday are really to help with that empathy, to really help people see that you may not agree with somebody, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong and you're right. And I think that, our culture has this very contrary approach to life. Like we're supposed to be independent all the time and think for ourselves. Well, yes, But I think more importantly, we need to recognize and have empathy and understand people so that we can work with people more effectively.
Mhm.
Because I think I hate this term, we throw the baby out with the bathwater if we don't agree with somebody and they have a different point of view. Well, that if you understand where they're coming from when they say these things, you can have a better understanding of why they're saying it versus having this just, reaction to it. So
Yeah.
the whole point of these love letters for me is this understanding. I'm hoping and praying for more understanding for people.
Yeah. I think often, when we're out there dating, right, we tend to, if something, and you and I talked about this at the beginning of the show, right? If something doesn't work for me, we might think it's a red flag. We want to say this negative thing. And we talked about this earlier, and that it may not be a red flag. It just may be something that is a deal breaker for me, but it may possibly not be a deal breaker for somebody else. And so that doesn't make this person, like a bad person, or something like that, and we often kind of make the other person feel like they're inferior, or they're wrong, or they're something, and that's not true. It's just they just happen to not be the one for me. And I've met many individuals that are wonderful individuals. I mean, truly great people, but maybe just not the right person for me. So, and that doesn't make them, wrong, right, or any indifference. It's just kind of the way it is. But I think if we can have a more understanding, because we often say, oh, if we know what we want, then we can find what we want. But the reality is why do we want that? Why is it? And I think what you're saying
Exactly.
in the information that you're giving to us is that we can better understand why we want that. Why is it important to us? And if we don't get that, what will happen? And what will we feel if that isn't the case? And so I think it's a lot of understanding about ourselves versus, always understanding about the other person, which we need to, of course. But the more we can understand about ourselves, the more we can actually connect and have a relationship with someone else. So yeah, I love it. I love what you do.
That you're so spot on when you say that. That's just 100% true because I think the biggest thing that we need to understand ourselves first because if we don't understand ourselves, we don't know what we want, we don't know how to go look for it. Like
Mhm.
if you want to go somewhere and you get on a plane and you have no idea where you want to go, the pilot doesn't know where to go either. So you got to figure out what you want first, but more importantly, you have to figure why you want those things and what's driving you, what your concern is, and what's going on for you really behind it all. And you start realizing that this concern. So for the north position, the concern is certainty. For the east position, it's freedom. For the south position, it's security or stability, sorry. And for the west position, it's security. So these are that driving concern, survival concern that drives so much of how we navigate life and how we go about operating and relating it with people and how our interpersonal, you know, communication with in our heads, uh, how we go about just literally looking at life. So once you start realizing that about yourself, you start realizing why you do the things you do and why you attract certain people. Because when we're going out other people, we're attracting them. And so what's interesting is you start realizing who you're attracting and why. So yes, this self awareness is huge. It's the pivotal part of this, and I say this in my book. It's the first thing that you really have to understand, because without that, it's almost impossible to go about playing a game of love. It's like if you went on the basketball court and said, I don't want to play the way you guys play. I'm just going to go do it the way I do it. They'll be like, no, you can't play with us then. You have to learn you have to learn to play your position, what your role is, how you play best, that you do play for your position best from from that perspective. And then you learn how to play with others, and then you learn how to play the game with some finesse. And it's so much fun. Like once you start realizing this, everybody you meet you're like, oh, what position are they? And then you start to recognize how they're kind of thinking about it, and you can talk to them in a way that helps like this smoother relationship from the get-go. And it's just I mean, our daughters use it constantly when they meet their friends, because we're like, oh, if they're that position, then they're obviously thinking in this way, and this is a concern for them, so let's alleviate that concern so they're not perturbed. um, yeah, it's fascinating and so much fun. I can't wait to play with other people and people start recognizing this, because I know for me and my husband and my daughters, it's just been absolutely eye-opening. And just it's every time we meet somebody, so what position do you think they were? It's hilarious.
That's very
Yeah.
neat. So tell us again, what is the north? What is the north again? The north, south, what is it?
So North's concern is certainty, and they are constantly looking to alleviate that concern. So they're driven and they're black and white and very determined. East is freedom. So their concern is they like their freedom. They're always looking to, they're fun, energetic, approachable. Like my daughter is an East, and when she was little, every time we go to the pool or something, she's like, I can't wait to meet new friends today. I mean, she literally would say that. You know, she's just very outgoing and fun and charismatic, and their concern is freedom. She didn't do well in public school because she loves to talk, and she doesn't like that confinement. So for South, it's stability. Souths are very supportive, emotionally kind, loving. Not that everybody else isn't. Everybody has all these traits. It's just that for each position, they offer this in this cycle and sequence. This is their offer. This is how they show up. And so their concern is stability. They like to have, that grounding base. And so for the West position, their concern is security. So they're introspective, kind of pensive. They're concerned about, they look to the past for information, and they're the gatherers of information, and they're incredibly important in the whole cycle. Each position is equally important in the cycle and sequence. It would be like if you take the planet and took a quarter of it out, it wouldn't work. It's the same thing. Each position is equally valuable and equally important. And that's super important to remember, because everybody kind of thinks that their position or their viewpoint is always the most important, and it's not always so. But recognizing that this is happening, you can start seeing the cycle and how it's going and how it's working, and how you only need to contribute at a certain time for a certain percentage, and then you kind of need to let the cycle happen. So once you start to see this happening, you can recognize that and not interrupt it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I
Did that
believe
kind of
so.
help you look at it?
But I wonder, what about someone's past, things that they've experienced in life? Does that affect them as to what they are? If they, were they once, a North and then they became a South? I mean, due to the
I don't
things that have
I
happened
don't
in their
believe so. I think that, the things that happen in our life certainly have an effect on us, for sure. Like my parents' divorce did, but I was born a North. I've always been a North, and now that I see it, it's absolutely clear for me. And we don't choose.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're just breaking up a
So,
little.
and that is a question a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so uh, I do believe that we're born into these positions. I've
Mhm.
always been a North, and now that I look back on my life, I've I've always operated from this position. But yes, 100% things have an effect on our lives. Of course they do. But I do believe that we're all always biologically operating from this perspective. So, I mean, the way I look back at my life now, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Now that I see it, that's how I was operating. But I do get that concern a lot, because I think a lot of these personality tests kind of give you the spectrum and these
Mhm.
variations, because you can't definitively say that you are one of them. But I do believe you are one of these positions, and the quicker, or the like, if you went to play a game and you knew your position, you could play so much better, faster, effectively if you accepted that and then went, well, that's interesting. So if that's the case, then, and you start playing with the other positions, you can play so much better, faster, effectively. And in my opinion, it's like you win the championship of love. Like that's what you want.
Right.
And I have, with my husband, who's actually an East, we're actually a 90-degree. And we were married 9 years before I knew this, or we knew this. It becomes so clear and apparent after I've realized what was happening in our relationship. And I don't know, because we're both on offense. So North and East are on offense, South and West are on defense. Two people on offense are always looking to the future, are always living in the now. So the South and the West are on defense, and they're protecting. So this is getting more in depth as far as the positions and everything goes. But if that kind of helps you look at it a little bit better, than being on offense and defense.
Right. So you
I
would be more
don't. Go ahead.
attracted to someone with the offense. So if I was the North, then I would be more attracted to someone with
On
besides
defense.
the East because they're more of an offense versus a.
No, you would be attracted to someone on defense because that makes a complete team.
Oh, I see. I see.
So when you play any game, there's offense and defense.
Right, right. So you want the opposite. So your attraction would be the opposite. I'm getting it. Your attraction would be
You
the
are.
opposite.
You are getting
Oh, yeah.
it.
But it works for you and your husband because you're both on the offense. But so this way you understand it though.
Well, we struggled mightily. We
Yeah.
struggled, and had we not figured this out, I don't know that we'd still be together. Honestly,
Mhm.
I'm just being 100% honest, because now I can see what's going on for him, and I can reconcile, and we kind of do this. You know, we keep reconciling and understanding and appreciating, and without that, it would be really, really hard. We did battle.
Mhm.
Norse. It was yeah, it was a struggle.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's something to know. So really this would be great for couples that already exist if they're struggling a little bit. They could better understand their partner as to what they're going through by understanding their
Oh
position.
yeah, 100%. I even say in the book, whether you're, seeking a new relationship or you're already in one, you could actually recommit and um, discover something about somebody that you're already with. And I go through a long process of kind of that, and asking questions, figuring out why, what's going on for your mate, how do they look at things. Yeah, this could be a whole new discovery in a relationship that you're already in. 100%.
Now, is it possible for anyone to be like a borderline in between two different, areas?
I have discovered that if you're a North, you can lean a little more West or a little more East, for
Hmm.
sure. But I do believe that you play your position biologically. And I do think, definitely you can, you kind of, like I said, sway one way or the other, but you're definitely one position. That's what I believe. I believe, and I want to get empirical evidence on this someday. I believe that it's in our DNA somehow, some way. And I'd love to do using the 4-cross love checklist and framework to really see how much it helps people, stay together, be together, understand one another, have more loving relationships, have more. I would love to reduce the divorce percentage significantly.
Yeah,
That would be absolutely wonderful.
it would be
And
wonderful.
and yeah, it's devastating. It's devastating for everybody.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think preventing those things before that happens, like learning to choose the right person from the get-go. I mean, then I'd love to, before kids, I call it kids because I'm older now, but before they learn to date or, make those commitments and get into a marriage. Like if I understood this before I got married, well, maybe I wouldn't have met my husband. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I love him. I love him, and I can see being with him forever because we have this. It's just it's so much more fun.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Well, we're going to have to close the show. It went by so quickly. And I want to thank you so much, Shelley, for all that you shared with us here today and all that you've given us. Because again, we have a free gift. So the free gift is it includes two videos from the upcoming book and a peek into which of the four positions you are, what the four cross love checklist is, and how you will use it to win the game of love. So you'll need to go to the free gift. It's to get it, you just go to the website www.4 cross cross love love.com/gift, and then just check out her website because she's got the love letters there. Send her a message, let her know that you saw her today. You'd like maybe a little bit more information on what she is sharing and when her book comes out. It's going to be great. I just am looking forward to that. So again, just email her at 4crosslove@gmail.com. Remember, that's number 4. And again, her book is going to be called Love is Not Blind, You Are. And so I think that's going to be a great book. So Shelly LaVigne, thank you so much for being with us here today. We just love having you.
Thanks, CC. It was a pleasure.
It is great. Hey, everyone, you're listening to Date the Right One on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. We are the new streaming network.com, home of Going Solo and Going Bold. I am Cece Schatz, the doyenne of relationships. I hope that you'll reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. All you need to do is go to Going Solo Network at gmail.com. Send me a quick email. I love to get your emails. I receive them personally. I answer them personally. So please go ahead and send me a message. And then just check out my personal site, which is Going Solo Network at gmail.com. I'd like to invite all of you to a date chat night we're having locally here in the Tampa Bay area on September the 13th. I'm excited about that. And then also join my Singles Want to Date. It's Singles Want to Date 40 through 70-ish. And so join that site. Just go to goingsolonetwork.com and join it. We'd love to be able to have you do that. And then also we have the Going Solo Travelers, and we'd love for you to join us if you feel like traveling with some single people. We would love to be able to have you do that. So I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Again, date the right one, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.